Good morning everybody and welcome to Thursday's maths lesson. So, at the beginning of the week we looked at ordering and comparing fractions that were less than one whole, and today we're going to follow on from that, looking at fractions that are greater than one whole. So the first thing I would like you to do is, looking at the fractions that you can see on the screen, can you circle the fractions which are greater than 1? So you're going to be looking for improper fractions, and remember, improper fractions have a numerator that is bigger than the denominator. So 30 seconds, pause the video and see if you can circle and find all the answers, and then if you come back I'll let you know if you're right or wrong. So hopefully you've had time to do that and you've got the answers that I have on the board. So 12 sixths, 11 tenths, 13 twelfths and 20 19ths were all improper fractions and were greater than one whole. So just like we did at the beginning of the week, we're going to start by comparing fractions that are greater than a whole by using bar models. But I just want you to have a quick think. Would you rather have 5/3 or 6/4? Think about what you know about fractions and think about which one you'd rather have, and then come back and we'll look at it with the bar model. So hopefully you've had time to think. So here are the bar models for each one of those fractions. So up here we have 5/3. And this one shows us 6/4. Now if we look at the one that goes out the furthest, this is where our line would be. So you can quite clearly see that 5/3 is greater than 6/4 because 6/4 goes to here and 5/3 goes all the way out to here. So if I was having that bar of chocolate, I would prefer to have 5/3. Let's look at the next one. So we've got two bars here. The first thing we need to do is work out what the fractions are. So on the top bar, my fractions are split into 2. Let's change the colour of my pen so you can see it. My fractions are split into 2. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chunks coloured in. The bars on the bottom are split into 4. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pieces coloured in. And I can see quite clearly that if I was to draw my line to see if they are equivalent, that they are equivalent and they're worth the same. So for this fraction, it wouldn't matter whether I had 5 halves or 10 quarters because they're equivalent and I'd get the exact same amount. Let's have a look at this. Using the representations below, complete the statement. Now this time we're going to look at them in mixed numbers instead of improper fractions. First, let's see if we can put them into an improper fraction. So my first sets of bars are split into 4, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pieces. I've got 2 whole bars coloured in, and I have 2 quarters left over. In the second bar, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 chunks for each bar. I've got 16, 17, 18, 19 pieces cut in, which gives me 2 full bars and 3/8 left over. Now, I can quite clearly see that the yellow bar goes further than the blue bar, so I would have 2 2/4 is greater than 2 3/8. Final one to look at together, then we're going to go try some questions. So I've got 1 4/6 is greater than or less than 1 1/2. Now look at the 2 pink bars. 1 4/6 goes all the way out to here. You can quite clearly see that my pink bar does not go up to the line, so 1 4/6 is greater than 1 1/2. And on the other sets of bars, we've got 1 3/5 or 1 3/4. You can see that 1 3/5 goes to here, but we have some green that goes further than the yellow bar. So 1 3/5 is less than 1 3/4 because 1 3/4 has more if I wanted the chocolate bar. What I would like you to do now is to pause here and go and complete the do one questions and check your answers. You can pause, rewind this video to help you if you get stuck. Okay, hopefully by now you had a go at the do one questions, you checked your answers and you got them correct. If you didn't, please go back, look at the answers, rewind the video and have another go. So now we're going to move on to looking at the method that we used at the beginning of the week to compare improper fractions and mixed numbers that are fractions greater than a whole. So it's the exact same number, we just might have exact same method, apart from we're probably going to have improper fractions. So the first set I have is 9/3 and 13/4. So just like earlier in the week, the first step is to write the multiples of each denominator. And I can see straight away that 12 is my common multiple. So let's just move that out of the way so we can write there. The next step is then to convert each fraction into its equivalent fraction with that denominator. So we're going to have 9/3 is something over 12. 3 times 4 is 12. 9 times 4 is 36. So we've got 36/12. We're going to do the same for 13/4 into 12ths. 4 times 3 is 12. 13 times 3 is 13, 26, 39. So I've got 36 over 12 or 39 over 12. I'd much prefer to have 39 pieces. So 9 3/4 is less than 13 and 4/4, 13/4. Let me start that again. 9/3 is less than 13/4 because 9/3 is 36/12, 13/4 is 39/12, and I'd rather have 39 chunks. Let's do the next one together. Okay, let's do the next one together and then you can go try the last two. So we've got 6/5 and 4/3. So straight away I'm going to write down my multiples. And I can see that 15 is going to be my lowest common multiple. So I'm going to change 6/5 into its equivalent 15ths. So 5 times 3 is 15. 6 times 3 is 18. Sorry about that. And then we've got 4/3 into 15th. 3 times 5 is 15, 4 times 5 is 20. So we've got 18 15ths or 20 15ths. I don't know about you, but if I had a chocolate bar, I'd rather have 20 parts than 18 parts. So 6/5 is less than 4/3 because 6/5 is equivalent to 18 15ths. 4/3 is equivalent to 20 15ths, and 20 15ths would be the better chunk to have. Go and see if you can do 4/2, 10/5, and 3/3 and 3/2, and then come back for the answers. Okay, so hopefully you've managed to have a go at the last two questions. If you have, this is what you should have done. So your 4/2 and 10/5 should have been changed into equivalent fractions of tenths, and you should have 20 tenths and 20 tenths. As you can see, 20 tenths and 20 tenths are completely equal. So 4/2 is equal to 10/5. And for 5/3 and 3/2, 5/3 should have been changed to 10/6. 3/2 should have been changed to 9/6. I'd rather have 10 chunks of a cake than 9 chunks of a cake, so I'm going to say that 5/3 is greater than 3/2 because 10 is bigger than 9. Okay, so I'm just going to show you what to do if you have a would you rather, greater than, less than, order these fractions questions, but some of your questions were in mixed numbers and some of your questions were in improper fractions. Now, if you look at the method steps down here, you'll see I've added in an extra step. And that first step is to check, are both fractions in the same form? Now, if I've got 1 and 5/8 and I've got 20 16ths, they're definitely not in the same form because one of them is a mixed number and the other is an improper fraction. Now my advice to you would be to change them both into an improper fraction, because that's the easiest way to then find the equivalent. So we've got to change 1 5/8 into a improper fraction. I'm going to need to cast back to last week. So we're going to do 1 times 8, because we're going to do the whole number times the denominator, which is 8, and then we're going to add our extra 5 chunks. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we're going to have 13 eighths to look at. So, and then straight away back to the same steps as before. So the first thing to do is going to be to write out my multiples. And I can see straight away that 16 is going to be my lowest common multiple. So I'm going to change 13 eighths into something 16ths. 8 times 2 is 16. 13 times 2 is 26. And if you look at 20/16ths, you'll see that it's already in sixteenths, and it makes 20/16ths. So I've got 26/16ths compared to 20/16ths. I'm sure you'll agree 26 is bigger than 20, so I would rather have 1 5/8, because that would be the biggest chunk. Go and see if you can do the next question, which is 1 3/10 or 32/30, converting them both into improper fractions and then doing the same thing to compare. If you come back, I'll show you the answers. Okay, so hopefully you've done the following. We've got 1 3/10 would change into 13/10 into an improper fraction. Then I wrote my common multiples and I changed them into improper fractions in 30ths, because 30th was my lowest common multiple. So I had 39/30ths or 32/30ths. Don't know about you, I prefer 39 chunks. So 1 3/10 is the fraction I would rather have. Okay, I've got just enough time to show you one last question. So this would be ordering our improper fractions. So we've got all of these fractions in ascending order. And we know from the beginning of the week that ascending is smallest to biggest. Now you can see I've already written my multiples down and find that 60 is the common multiple. But before I continue, I just need to change this mixed number into an improper fraction. I know that 1 whole times 5 is 5. Add my 2 is going to give me 7/5. Okay, now I can change all my fractions into equivalent fractions that have 60 as the denominator. So 5/8 into 60. Okay, we times 5 by 12 to get 60. 8 times 12 is 96. Let's have a look at 10/20ths into 60. 10 times 3 is 60. 20 times 3 is 60. 10 times 3 is 30. So I have 30/60ths. We've got 14/15ths. 14/15ths, 15 times 4 is 60. 14 times 4 is 56. And finally, 7/5. I know that 5 times 12 is 60, and 7 times 12 is 84, so I've got 84/60ths. Now I can put them in ascending order in their original form. So I'm looking for the smallest one. 30/60ths was the smallest one, which gives me 10/20ths. My next smallest one is 56/60ths, so that's 14/15ths. My next smallest one is 84/60ths, which means it's 1 2/5. And finally 96/60ths, which is 8 1/5. Go and have a go now at the other set of do questions, and then tomorrow you'll do your think, explain and solve.